Let's talk about the SAT, PSAT, and appreciate the introduction there. I am the president of BWS Education Consulting. I added my middle initial to the name because I thought BS Education wouldn't be all that persuasive to potential clients. And I'm the author of several books, and I base the books on my work with students and see what strategies, what approaches work for the students, and then try to customize the writing in turn. So let's talk about testing policy. There have been a lot of changes really since the pandemic. Uh, Things got turned all upside down in so many ways, life in general, and also college admissions. And going back to that time prior to COVID, most colleges looked at test scores. And then with the big decrease in college applications in 2020, colleges were trying to institute policies that would encourage applications however they could get them. And so one big thing they did is many colleges became test optional. And since then, there's been a shift back towards requiring the tests or looking at them more in depth, and we'll see how that's changed a bit. But just to give you an overview of the latest on testing policy, the more selective schools in the country, in certain schools around here in the in our area, like Ohio State, do require the test. So you have a lot of Ivy League schools like Yale, Brown, Dartmouth, Harvard. They require the ACT or SAT scores. A lot of other prestigious schools like Georgetown, MIT, and then some Big Ten schools. We have Ohio State, Purdue. If you're looking at schools in Texas, Florida, Georgia, and even Tennessee, a lot of the state schools there require ACT or SAT. And if you're looking at military academies as well. But most colleges in the US are test optional, meaning they will look at the scores if they're turned in, but it's not required to turn them in. And if you're thinking about University of California system, the state schools in University of California, not talking about like Stanford, which does require the test, or University of Southern California, but talking about the state schools like Berkeley, UCLA, they don't look at the scores right now. But all this could change. So you just want to check with the admissions website and the admissions offices directly to see what the latest is with their requirements. Okay. And why has there been a change? Well, the research came out from Dartmouth and other colleges. They did a lot of internal research to see how they can ensure that students are ready for college level work. And the president of Dartmouth said that the research shows that standardized test scores can be an important predictor of academic success at a place like Dartmouth and beyond, more so than even just grades or recommendations, for example. And it's interesting because before the pandemic, grades were widely considered to be the most useful tool in predicting how students would perform. And now it's interesting to see Dartmouth and other places saying that the standardized tests are even a better predictor of how students might do. Now, why would that be the case? Why might they be a better predictor? Well, I wanted to share this with you. This is from a Wall Street Journal article that came out yesterday. You may have heard about this in the news, about this national assessment of educational progress. It's a major standardized test that looks at how students across the country are doing, how they compare it to students across the world. And it's very interesting when you look at this, that over time, there's been a decline here from, about the mid 2010s, and then there's been a steady decline since then. People speculate why that's been the case. Maybe it's because of the increased use of smartphones, where students aren't reading it as much. Maybe could be using artificial intelligence too frequently. Perhaps it was the pandemic and lack of in-person instruction. But the bottom line is that there's been, unfortunately, these past few years, a steady decline in overall skill level for students. And colleges want to make sure that when students are coming, that they're not doing remediation when they arrive. They want students ready to go. And I think something else that's gone on is the idea of grade inflation. And I find this to be a fascinating graph where if you go back to 1965, okay, 1960s, 1970s, we see that students who enroll at four-year universities who have an A average when they were high school students, that it's only around 20-25% back then. So if you had an A average as a high school student back in the 60s and 70s, that was a strong achievement. Now we look forward to even 10 years ago, it was about two-thirds of students who went to college had an A average. And then we fast forward post-COVID, and it's up around 85, 86%. So what this means is students are generally getting better grades in high school, a lot more A's being handed out. And I can tell you just from a tutoring standpoint, we very frequently have students sign up for tutoring who say in the registration that they have an A average at school, 4.0, but their ACT or SAT score is not where they want it to be. And unfortunately, the grade inflation is a reality. Colleges realize this, and they want to have a way that they can, in a standardized fashion, make sure students are ready for these things they're going to do in college. And so that's where the SAT and ACT come in as far as a way of giving people that opportunity. Okay. So bottom line for you as parents here, about 97% of US colleges will use test scores if submitted. ACT, SAT, students don't really have anything to lose by trying them. In fact, if you're in Ohio, almost all juniors will have a free opportunity to take the SAT or ACT in the winter. Usually, depending on the school, it'll be February, March, typically when it's given. And there are a lot of other opportunities to take it throughout the year.